Thank you, Wando. I hope I got your name right. Here's a quick demo of Laravel Survey. So here in front of me, I have the documentation open. I have also created a brand new Laravel project. And yeah, I'll just go through the docs with you and set it up on this new project. First step, I want to do a composer require to install the package. Again, this is a fresh Laravel installation, so I assume that you already have that. I'm gonna run this composer require line, and that is going to install the package for us. Then I'm going to do what we have here. I'm gonna publish the migrations of the package. That's done. And then I'm just gonna run PHP artisan migrate. And if I do that, you'd notice that these new tables are migrated: answers, entries, questions, sections, and surveys. And so now we would have these tables in our database. And so what I've done is I also have PHP my admin here, so I can kind of show you that you would notice that there are these new tables like surveys table and entries, etc. For now, everything is empty, so I'm just gonna uh, go and continue with the setup. So usage, the first step that you need to take is you need to create a survey. You can do this anywhere. You could even do it in your own controller, but I'm just gonna create a seed for this. So I will go and create a PHP artisan, make seed. I'm gonna call it survey seeder. You can call it anything you want. Then I'm gonna head over to my seeders and I'm gonna paste the code that I have from the demo. The survey needs to be imported, so I'm gonna import that. And one more thing I'm gonna do, one small change that I wanna make is I wanna make it such that guests can also submit entries. To do that, I'm gonna steal a bit of code from the documentation again. You would notice that there is this section that talks about allowing guests to submit entries as well. So I'm just gonna copy this and put it here. I'm trying to say settings is to this. Okay, so this is just optional. You can add it or not as you wish. Database seeder, I just want to make a call to my, so I'm gonna do a call survey seeder, and that is it. Now, I would need to run PHP artisan db seed, I would think, and that should create my survey. Yeah. So now, if I head over to my PHP my admin again and reload this page, you would notice that we have one survey inside, and it's called cat population survey. Okay. So next thing I'm gonna do is, now that I have this survey, I'm gonna copy this name. Still nothing will show up here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna head over to my app and I'm just gonna create a new controller. I'm gonna call it entries controller. Again, you can call this anything you wish. And in my entries controller, I'm just gonna have a couple of functions. Again, this is optional, but I'm just gonna have a create function. We show the form for the survey, and then I'm gonna have a store function where we will store the submission in our database. So for create, basically what I need to do is I want to get my survey, the one that I have in the database, and to do that, it's just a regular Laravel model. So I can just do a var name is this cat population survey, and then I'm just gonna get a first one. Okay, and then I'm gonna return a view. For this demo, I'm just gonna use Laravel's default welcome view, and I'm just gonna pass the survey along. Now I'm gonna head over to the welcome view and make some changes. I'm just gonna make it empty for simplicity. And let's just have a head, let's just have a body. And in my body, I'm just gonna have a container. And inside the container, I'm gonna use the documentation again. You would notice that we have this thing here. It's basically a template for the survey that you can use. And this is using Bootstrap 4, but you can customize, you can publish those views and customize them so that it works in whatever CSS framework that you choose. So yeah, I'm gonna add this here. And one last thing I need to do, I need to update my routes, and that is going to be here. I'm gonna have a my controller is called entries controller, and I will be using the create method here. Let's just shorten this. And so if I go back to my create method again, I'll just fetch this survey from my database, and then I return the welcome view with the survey that I fetched. So if I reload the page, you'd see that this already appears here. It looks pretty ugly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna head over to the Bootstrap docs, and I'm just gonna copy the CDN link for this demo, and I'm just gonna paste it in the head elements. Let's see. Yeah, this should do the trick. So if I reload here, okay, now the survey looks reasonable. But what you would notice is that if you press the submit button, it doesn't do anything because this inputs, the survey actually needs to be wrapped in a form. So to do that, I am going to change this div to a form. I'm gonna set the method to post. This is optional. You can use get method as well, but I think a post method would be more appropriate for this use case. And then I'm just gonna have action. For action, I'm gonna use a route called entries store. We haven't created this, so we're gonna do that soon. Because this is a post form, I'm just gonna have a cserv token there as well. And let's just create the routes now. Let's create another one called store. I'm gonna change the verb to post, and I'm gonna give both of these routes a name. I'm gonna say entries.create for the first one and store for the second one. Now, what I will also do is I'm gonna head over to my entries controller, and I'm gonna just dd dump and die my request to see what's inside. Okay, so if I come back here one more time, reload the page and press the submit button, you'll notice that this is what we have in our submission: Q1, Q2, and Q3 doesn't appear. The radio button wouldn't appear unless it has a value, so that's why you wouldn't see anything there. So if I, for example, fill this up with 3 and let's say Jafar, submit, you'll notice the values get filled up here. Okay. Next step is we want to keep this entry in our database. So what I'll do is, again, I'll head over to the documentation and I still this a snippet. So there's this section validating submissions. This will handle both validation and also storing the entry. So first step is let me import this entry as, and we want to also get this survey. So we want to access the same survey, and we use the survey to access the validation rule. So to do that, I could just copy and paste it here, or I could just create another function inside here. Let's just call it survey return, and I'm just going to return the survey. And so here, I'm just going to reuse the survey. In fact, I can just inline this, and here I'm gonna keep a variable called survey, and I'm gonna have this survey here. So I'll get the survey from the database. I'll use it to validate my input, the input that comes from the form, and then finally I store it as an entry in my database. Now, one mistake I've made here is that in the documentation is that here, instead of passing the survey, we actually need to pass the rules of the survey for validation. So I'm gonna fix that here. And now if I head back here, and if I just go back, if I press the submit button, you would notice that it will validate the input. Now, the validation rules, you may have noticed when we were creating the survey, we actually passed the rules to the question. So the first question is the only question right now that we are validating. We want to make sure it's numeric and the minimum is 0. The other two questions are not validated, so you could add those validations, but if you're using a seeder, you definitely want to reseed your database. So yeah, that's that. And now if I head over here and let's say we submit something valid, before I submit, I'll just head over to my database. Again, you would notice that I have no entries just yet. Entries are empty. Press the submit button and we will have an entry. And entry comes with some other uh, relationship. So an entry will have answers. So that particular entry has these answers. Now, that's what we have here. Now instead of returning an empty page, I guess I'll just head over here and do a simple return. Let's say redirect back with a success message. And we're just gonna say thank you for your submission. And now in my view to display that, I would just write a session success if session success is available. We want to do let's just do an alert success, and here we just use the session success message. I think this should do the job. Now if I just go back one more time, let's say to Jafar, and then you notice that this success message appears there as well. And if I go back to my entries, you'll see that I have a second entry. Yeah, so this is the basic usage of the package. I think you can go through the docs briefly and see what are the options that you have. There's quite a few different options that you have, and you can customize how you use and what you use from this package. You could, for example, make sure that people that only users who are logged in can make a submission, or you can limit the number of submissions a user can have, and things like that. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks again for checking out this package, and hope this was helpful. Cheers.